Good evening, and welcome to the January 20th, 2026 City Council regular hybrid meeting. I'm Mayor Dave Rosenbaum. Tonight's hybrid City Council meeting is being brought to you in person and via Zoom. We're also broadcasting on the city's YouTube channel and on MITV Channel 21. Thank you to all, and thank you for joining us today. Council members, please have your microphones turned on for the roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Andral. I think I saw
Here.
you. Thank you.
Here.
Councilmember Shea.
Here.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Here.
Councilmember Weicker. Here. Councilmember Weinberg.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Becker.
Here.
And Mayor Rosenbaum.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
City Clerk, please note that Councilmember Andral has joined us via Zoom. Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. Council, if you would join us in council chambers, please stand and face the flag. If you would join us via Zoom, please mute and turn off your video to ensure that the U.S. flag is visible. Please join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We now move to the approval of today's agenda. If there are no questions, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion by Councilmember Weicker and a second by Councilmember Weinberg. City Clerk, please conduct a roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Deputy Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Mayor Rosenbaum.
Aye.
Councilmember Andral.
Aye.
Councilmember Weinberg.
Aye.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Aye.
Councilmember Weicker.
Aye.
And Councilmember Shea.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Did I vote?
Yes, I called you second.
Okay.
I thought, but I can call you again.
That's
Mayor.
okay. Our first item of special business is AB 6845, Mercer Island Municipal Court, and it's our honor to welcome Judge Jeff Gregory.
Okay, good evening and thank you, council members. Mayor Rosenbaum, first of all, congratulations on the appointment. I would like to welcome the new council members, Councilmember Shea and Deputy Mayor Becker. Congratulations as well. And good to see the council members that I've talked to before. I appreciate the invite here today to give you another State of the Court address. It has been about 18 months since I gave the last one. Not much has changed in the world that we have set up over there at the City of Newcastle in our new kind of clerk's office and court quarters, but there have been quite a bit of changes in the state, in the area, especially when it comes to courts of limited jurisdictions, which I will get to in a minute. But I'm going to do that combination of that as well, just give a general state of the court as if this is the first time addressing, since we do have the new council members as well. So just for all of you, a refresher course for the elder statesmen as well as the new ones then. I'd like to just introduce our team first and foremost. First is our court administrator, Cheryl Lucero, which is the, let's see, third one on the right. Cheryl has been our court administrator for quite a few years now. Essentially, if you want to call over to the court and talk to the boss, that is who you would contact. She runs everything. Her and I together make up a great team to run the court. She is certainly takes care of the staff better than I could ever hope for, including her interactions with the general public. Love having Cheryl. She is an integral part. Our two clerks are Pauline Lee and Sabina Chang. Pauline has been with us quite a while. She's taken other positions within the city, back to the court, thankfully. Her and Sabina, who's been with us for about a little over 2 years, are a wonderful team. We're all actually very close within the court as well, so it makes it a very nice team environment. They're all extremely professional and very, very responsible at their jobs. Lucky to have them. We added, when I first got here a little over 4 years ago, a security staff team, a independent contractor that with the help of the city we're able to procure to help protect the court staff, obviously the bench, as well as the general public that does come in to utilize our courts. This is becoming more and more of a important part of our system, as one of those kind of changing landscapes that we're seeing is constantly new legislation and concerns about security of judges, and not just at the federal, but state, local, all levels regarding security. and violence towards the court. Those are backed by numbers that we're seeing, unfortunately. That also includes court staff as well as just incidents that's happening in the courtroom that is increasing over the years. So that is one of the things that we're keeping a close eye on. But thankfully, the security team that we have there is absolutely top-notch, so that is great to have. And then finally, me as presiding judge, I'm just starting my second term here at the City of Mercer Island, and I'd like to thank the City Council for continuing its support and trust in giving me another 4 years at this position, and I do take that with great care. Okay, thank you. Next slide. So Mercer Island's court's emphasis, obviously we can talk about, the general terms on, being a, unfettered as well as unbiased, judicial officer in a judicial court, to the result of the equality of all. But behind all of that, there are three things that everything we do, I take a test against to make sure that we are covering all three of these, which I find extremely important. One is the accountability. What we're doing or what we hopefully are not missing, we will take care of itself by just constant consideration of what are we supposed to be doing, what can we be doing better, and if we're not doing it better, why not, right? And that's the accountability part, is anything that goes good and bad does fall ultimately from the court, on the court, and ultimately on me as the presiding judge. All right, so I think accountability is extremely important. And I will tell you, it's not just me that has that. It is a very important ethos at the court. It is also my staff as well. Transparency, obviously this is a public court. I take that very serious as well. It is an open court. We do not try to hide anything. Everything is open, and that is our system, and it is a good system, and it needs to maintain it. So everything we do, we make sure that there is transparency attached to it. And then finally, reliability. Any court has to be reliable, obviously competent, obviously judicious, but also reliability, that if you have a court in your jurisdiction, they're gonna do the right thing without fail, or at least attempt to. And if something does go sideways, they'll take immediate steps to correct. And I think we follow those things pretty well and continue to do so. Thank you. Next slide. Regarding the continued home of the court, again, for the new parts of the City Council, unfortunately, we lost our City Hall building, I think going on about 3.5 years now. Thankfully, through the immense, incredible efforts of the other branches of this government, as well as our IT team, we were able to find a home over in the City of Newcastle, where I also sit as presiding judge as we contract on Newcastle's court services as well. So they opened one of their offices on the 3rd floor, where we have, as you can see, our clerk's office as well as my chambers. We hold court down in the City Council's chambers there. You can't really see it, it's underneath the words, but in their City Council chambers there every Tuesday, and then Newcastle is every second Monday of the month. All right, next slide. This, of course, carries with it an impact that was immediate and continues to be felt a little bit. I just want to kind of make you just aware of what does that mean if we're having court off island temporarily. Obviously, the clerk's office and the courtroom had to head over there, and we established it up pretty quick, and it is working fine. Obviously, we didn't have a lot of lacks in efforts to continue with the courts and its functionality. The off-island hearings does have an impact, of course, since we are mainly, Mercer Island Municipal Court for our citizens, and all of the misdemeanor and gross misdemeanor crimes and the infractions that happen within the City of Mercer Island. The courtroom itself, it does lend some kind of issues regarding travel time of going over to the island. Newcastle isn't far, but there are times when it is a bit of a trek getting from the island just up to Newcastle, considering the 405 and the I-90 interchange. All in all, it's been pretty good, and we've been able to handle it. We give a little grace on timing as long as we get a good contact from attorneys, witnesses, defendants, officers, anything like that. We just have kind of learned to work with it, and it seems to be working just fine. The biggest issue that we do face is that the room itself is not designed as a courtroom like we had come from the City of Mercer Island. There are a lot of dual-purpose courtrooms in the area where City Council and the courtroom does share a single room, but those are normally designed as such. This one was not. This was specifically designed by the City of Newcastle for City Council's chambers. So what that has led to is it's a bit of a kind of sticking it together when it comes to where the witness is going to sit. There's no dedicated witness stand. There's no jury box. There is no jury pooling area. So little things like that. But mainly what it comes down to is that because of the audio-video kind of design, we would have to have a total overhaul in order for us to be able to conduct Zoom hearings in the courtroom during open court hours. We just can't do that. We can't set that up without a complete overhaul, which we're just not going to be able to do because of financial reasons, of course. And so that does limit us. We are still an in-person court where everybody does have to show up in person. That does lend a little bit of difficulty. But again, everybody is used to it at this point and continues to be used to it. And so we're working with it. Where it does lend a little bit of issues is that we have obviously certain times where we have to bring people that are arrested or in custody, or we know that they've been transported into our jurisdiction from other custodies in other jails, where we do have to see them, and we're not close to coming around to the next Tuesday of having them brought and transported to court. So we have implemented a off-court day Zoom hearings where everybody is virtual at that point, including the inmate from the jail. That does seem to work. It's a bit of a scheduling exercise, finding the attorneys, making sure everybody is available, making sure my schedule is open, and we can sit down and do it that way. Again, a little more difficult than having the Zoom capabilities within a courtroom like most courts do, but we're working with it, and we will continue to work with it, okay? We do have some security considerations, you know, but again, like I've indicated, we've kind of worked around those, and we're continuing to improve on those, again, especially with the heightened concern for security in the courts these days. I think that's all and again, it's just the challenges that we are dealing with. There's nothing that is keeping us from doing what we're supposed to be doing, so that's good. And next slide, please. Some technology updates. Obviously, when I came in as presiding judge a little over 4 years ago, it wasn't the most technologically advanced courtroom that I walked into. With the help of IT and some very big dedication from the city manager's office as well, we were able to actually turn the courtroom that was on the island here around right away, and we were continuing. We got grants. We got other funding, and we were able to start, and we were on the cusp of bringing Zoom hearings into that courtroom when unfortunately we lost that courtroom. But that's okay. With that advancement, we're moving forward. The biggest technology update that I need to bring you guys is something I talked about 18 months ago. There is a case management system that the courts of limited jurisdiction, meaning the municipal and district courts in our state, have been using since it was developed in the 70s. It's a DOS system, technically 80s. It's a DOS system of the case management system that is still being used today. There has been a change. They are rolling out a new case management system. It's called a Court of Limited Jurisdiction Case Management System. Basically, it's a rollout of a rolling rollout where they have a few courts on right now, and they are sectioning out the state to roll out this new complete case management system that puts everything digitally and turns it from a DOS system to a Windows-based type of a system with fillable forms and everything like that. It's supposed to unite everything in this, especially when it comes to information, which is going to be very, very nice, since that is not necessarily the case right now, since all the jurisdictions have different ways to be dealing with their case management systems, as well as using this old DOS system. And so we can't really see what district court in King County is doing, or certain other courts that don't carry O Court or such of that. So the unification will help with that changing or sharing of information. And trust me, from a judge's standpoint, it is incredibly important when it comes to making the right decisions, having the competent amount of information in order to make those decisions. Without it, I am kind of flying in the dark sometimes, having to make some very important decisions, which of course I don't particularly like. So this is good. It has gone originally from us getting this new system or being part of the rollout in, I believe it was September of 2025. It has moved, of course, a few times, as these things tend to do. We are now scheduled to go live on June 7th of 2027. So we're starting kind of certain things right now, transferring some of our paper files into electronic files in order to move it over. Obviously working with IT very closely, and we'll continue to work with IT very closely with them and of course the state to do that. So I'll keep you up to date on that, but as of right now, I'm not gonna have probably anything very new other than maybe another change. But right now, June 7th, 2027 will be the big one. Okay, thank you. Next slide. Regarding just the court in general, as I had mentioned before, and again, I would like to extend an open door policy to obviously everybody on the city council and especially the new members of the city council, if you would like to. And I've sat with and had great meetings with all the city council members before. That's always still, I like to, any updates, come on by, we'll get you scheduled in, come on and just ask questions, talk about anything that you're hearing from your constituents, any concerns with that. It's my favorite topic is to talk about our judicial system, especially here on the island. But what we do in Mercer Island, as I indicated, we take care of all the criminal matters, misdemeanor and gross misdemeanor level charges that happen within the city of Mercer Island, as well as all the infractions that happen as well. But we also do several other things. We work on community outreach. The idea being is this is a, 1/3 of the branch of this government, and it needs to be out there for the public to understand that this is what is part of their government as well. And so we've done things. We are part of the District of Municipal and Court Judges Administration. There's a municipal judge, kind of a breakout room, a get-together that we do, or I'm a part of every week or every 2 weeks when I can make it. I've also been tasked to be one of the instructors at our state's judicial college, which we have a judicial college every year for all the new and incoming judges at all levels. And then they bring in people judges that have been around to teach certain areas. So for the next several years, I've tasked with teaching the section on judicial independence. So I'll be teaching that. My first instruction and college class will be in February of this year, and then I'll do it every year after that until I hand it off. So that's actually exciting. I'm very, very excited and honored to be asked to teach at our judicial college for the state. Additional stuff that we've done mock trials at the court. We've done day in court where we have certain groups come in and just kind of, watch court, ask questions, let them sit on the kids on the bench, put them in the robe, that kind of thing. It's a very fun day, and it's very cool to kind of teach it and kind of see their faces and start getting interested in the whole judicial system and possibly even law school. So. We've done interviews with the Mercer Island High School's newspaper, their little radio show that they put on. I've been interviewed for that as well. Of course, we do weddings. We do quite a few weddings. That's always really nice to do, and that's probably one of the best parts of my day because there's actually people smiling back at me at times, which I joke, but that's pretty much it, and that's a good thing to have at the end of the day. So it's pretty nice. It's a lot of fun. I've spoken at the Rotary once. We've done some work with the local Eagle troop, and then we've done some. And then I did sit and run the fire investigation conference on new fire investigators' testimony, in-court testimony. We did that last year. I couldn't make it this year and do it this year, but we actually ran them through actual mock testimony for all the fire investigators and the new fire investigators around the state of Washington. So that was another good thing that Mercer Island Municipal Court was part of. So I'm proud of that too. So where are we going from here? Obviously, we're constantly looking at policies. For instance, we just started changing our calendaring around to make it more efficient and help our transport officer and in custody cases, as well as our attorneys get stuff ready to go. And so we're constantly moving the needle a little bit here and there, changing things. If they work, great. If they don't work, we'll go back to the old way of doing it. But the worst part of any court that I've ever practiced in, either as a prosecutor or private counsel, public defender, is when a court gets stale on its procedure, when it gets stale on what it's kind of used to, and then no new ideas are kind of considered or move the whole idea along, which that's just not life, right? And so we're always looking to try to just change things, policies, procedures, things that we do to see if it is a better way to do it. If it's not, we go back. If it is, we'll move forward. One of those things is we are looking, one of the big things on the state horizon is the change in the public defense standards that the Supreme Court sent down recently that obviously you probably have all heard of. Everybody has heard of it in the state. It's one of those things where it's not going to necessarily affect Mercer Island right out of the gate, but it will eventually. So we've already had one meeting between the judiciary branch and the city manager's office just about that. I've already changed a few policies in order to address it from my standpoint that I can do starting now, not the ideas that it's necessarily needed, but once we get to the point where the big changes are coming, the changes that I can make now are gonna be kind of a known procedure, and everybody will be used to it, and it won't be, you know, cold water on, being thrown on everybody kind of a thing, so. And that's already turning out to be a positive thing for those public defense standards and recoupment kind of exercises. We will continue to do, obviously, continued education, both at the court administrative level, the judge level, the clerk's level. And this is specifically in response, still every year. It is every year, and it continues to be. I didn't change this part of the slide when I was here 18 months ago. It's still huge. The mental health crisis, the domestic violence crisis, obviously, we're always working with the substance use crisis, but mental health is still a giant part of what's going on out there that we're seeing. Always looking to increase support for our domestic violence victims in Mercer Island, of course, as well as Newcastle. And when I say Mercer Island, I also, just so you know, this equates right over to everything we're doing through City of Newcastle as well, and I'll be telling them the same thing, but it is a kind of a one-court idea for both of those jurisdictions. We're always still increasing jail alternatives when and where appropriate. That is limited, but it is a trend that has been going on probably the last 15, 20 years, especially from the federal all the way down to the limited jurisdiction courts. We'll continue to do that, again, operative words being when and where appropriate. And I've been working with Commander Magnan and have before on what that means necessarily, and that's turning out to be very well and a good alternative if I deem it appropriate at times. So, let's see. We did this before, but again, for the newer parts of City Council, when we first got in, we changed some search warrant procedures in custody Zoom, as I indicated, changed some procedures on infractions, definitely motions practice to make it more efficient, not be pulling officers off the street to sit there and not have to testify because something has resolved. We've changed those to make sure that we're not wasting the officers' time anymore and getting them pulled off the street for no reason. Jury trials as well, and of course I included the case management system, of course, at the very end. Obviously this leads to the efficacy of justice, which is again, one of the main components and parts of what's called GR 29, my responsibilities as a presiding judge and your presiding judge is the efficacy of justice. It's pretty much laid out in that rule of one of my main responsibilities as a presiding judge especially. Talking about the accuracy of procedural application, and all this stuff leads down to, and I can't really see it, the side benefit, which is too bad, but it's resource accountability or resource management is the idea. Obviously, the judicial branch has never been, cannot be, and never will be a revenue gaining or garnering part of any government. However, it doesn't mean we can't be efficient and responsible with obviously the public coffers that we are responsible for and given. So all these things, I do like to see a side benefit if what we do makes it more efficient. At the end of the day, saving the taxpayers a little bit of money, that kind of a thing, and we'll do it. So, all right, next slide. Okay, so we are excited still with the process that we're making, continue to make. Again, some big things on the horizon, which I will keep the City Council apprised of when it comes to that. I encourage, again, the City Council to, again, reach out to the court, just contact my court administrator. We'll set up a meeting, and either I'll come to you or you can stop by and see the court and have a seat in chambers, and we can have a good talk. I want to give out a particular acknowledgement and thanks to the City Council members who have already done that and sat with me, including especially ex-Mayor Salim Neese, who I want to acknowledge as a very big champion of that with me. We've sat several times and had great conversations, knowing that we do still, are different branches of government and have to maintain that different branch, that judicial independence, right? That judicial independence from the other branches of government. But at the same time, acknowledging that even though we're in different lanes, we're going down the same road towards the same goal for the citizens of the City of Mercer Island. And that's the idea that I want to promote and encourage for you guys as well. Come in, sit down, let's talk. There's nothing that says we can't do it. We're professionals. We understand that what we can do and what we should be doing. I think it's a responsible thing to do. So, but I also want to acknowledge, obviously, Mayor Rosenbaum. We've had a couple of good conversations and with some promising stuff that we'll be following up with as well. So, All right, thank you for your time, and do I have any questions or comments? Okay.
So I think I heard you say that you're in court Tuesdays and then first Monday of the month or second Monday of the month for Newcastle. Is that
Second Monday,
correct?
yes.
This is going to be an ignorant question. I probably asked you this when we interviewed you back in 2022, and I've just forgotten. What do you do the rest of the time? Is it a part-time job,
yeah.
or are you doing judge stuff that's not in court?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question. The thing about that I was, I wouldn't say pleasantly surprised, but surprised with is that being a presiding judge, the in-court stuff and on-the-bench stuff, that's the easy stuff. There is a lot of administrative work that goes into running a court. A lot of my time off the bench does go to that, preparing for the next court. I like to tell people that once we're done, we've wrapped on Tuesday and we're done on Tuesday, we immediately begin preparing for the next Tuesday when we're up again. Some courts do this day in and day out, right? They're a full-time court, they do it. We have the benefit of having it a week, but that doesn't mean we don't start working for the next week right away. Tuesday afternoon, we're starting looking at the next week already. It is only a part-time court. Half my time, or a little more than half my time, is Mercer Island and the off-hour stuff, the 2 a.m. Blood search warrants, that kind of stuff. But I also sit as a visiting judge or a pro tem judge in other jurisdictions, including Issaquah, Bothell, as well as Kirkland, where I'm also one of the named commissioners in Kirkland as well. So I do quite a bit of work when I'm not doing Mercer Island in Kirkland as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Whitaker.
Yeah, Judge Gregory, thanks for being here. I remember sitting down with you a couple years ago and getting the full introduction to the court, so highly recommend that to our new council members. And I also want to thank you for your flexibility in not being on Mercer Island and moving around a bit. And then I also was curious, and I also want to thank you for your community engagement too. I think doing all that Rotary and Eagles and high school engagement is really critical to help those young folks be inspired about maybe careers in the legal system. And then finally, I'm just curious what headwinds you see coming and what trends you see maybe hitting in 2026 that you're most worried about or most excited about.
We'll start with the headwinds that I'm worried about. The continued pressure on municipalities regarding the public defense standards. I'm not necessarily against the public defense standards, of course. I've been through a couple iterations of them, both when I was a prosecutor and as a public defender. So this isn't a new concept. It's just continuing, I think, to work towards getting the caseloads under control so we can have some good, competent public defenders out there that have time to do their jobs, right? But it has before and it will continue to put a strain financially on the justice system a little bit and cities as well. And so, again, Mercer Island's in a fairly good, unique position, not having the numbers that to raise concern as of yet, but it will at some point down the road. But for right now, there's a 10-year kind of rollout of those standards as well. But I also am part of a lot of the discussions just because I've been around a while and I kind of have had this experience where I'm brought into City of Kirkland, some meetings there, just as a consultant in my on my going back and having been through this. City of Issaquah, I've sat down and talked. Even Bothell has kind of reached out a little bit. So it's definitely something that is of concern about it. But these things do happen. I mean, it came through before. It's going to come through again. We don't have a lot of choice. We just have to figure out how to do it. We will. We will. The other concern, of course, is the safety. With the numbers that we're seeing, we do see a heightened incidence of violence within the courtroom, violence against judicial officers, violence against court staff, and just the overall safety risk of just stuff that can happen in a very emotional, tiny room of a courtroom. And so we're always, it's one of those things too that you lean on the experience on what cases, what kind of individuals, just even the actions or inactions of people that set off red flags that kind of match up from what you've experienced before. And so we deal with the best we can, but that does have a little concern, and unfortunately I don't know if that's going to be dampened going forward in the near future, unfortunately. So we're going to be more vigilant. There's, as I said, current legislation is being introduced in order to work on heightening security for judicial officers as well as courts and court staff. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. I am excited for the case management system. I think it's going to be an interesting switchover. I do think it's a great idea. Again, I don't like making any decision without as much information as possible. And when that information is limited, only because certain, one IT department doesn't have the same, type of a case management system as another city or IT department, or they can't open the lanes or won't open the lanes. I think that's a disservice to the citizens of the state in general, because I would like to know what's going on with this individual in a case in Okanagan County, and I can't. This will open that up, and so that is gonna be an exciting part, where at, a few clicks, I can see whatever I think that I need to see to make a good decision from wherever in the state. So that's probably the most exciting part of what's going on, although there will be some growing pains when it comes to that as well, guarantee you, so.
Thank you.
Councilmember Weinberg.
Yeah, so thank you again for the high quality and thorough presentation as always. Glad to see that things are going so well at the court. I wanted to follow up on one of the things that that you had mentioned, the public defense standards. So is it correct that the primary change in the defense standards is the reduction of caseload sizes for the defenders? And does that essentially necessitate the increase in the number of headcount, the number of people that we have for public defenders?
That's exactly the effect it's gonna have. It will, as the caseloads decrease, then you'll just have to, the cities will be forced to bring in a higher number of public defenders to cover all the cases. There is a thing called a case weight system that we can utilize at this level of courts of limited jurisdiction, meaning that all cases don't need the same effort from a public defense standpoint. Having been a public defender, that is 100% true. And so it's one of those things where, and again, the conversation we have, when we need to get to it, we will be prepared to make up our case weighting standards to then be applied to these case limit standards, which will help quite a bit. So.
I noticed that there is a bill in the legislature to try to fund the public defense attorneys, and it has a fiscal note of like $270 million. So I think during a year of a large deficit like the legislature is facing, I'm not sure how realistic that is. But do you know if there are other states that have managed to solve this, and where do they find the money to do it?
Yeah, unfortunately, we have gotten some information about certain other states where this has gone down specifically, and this level of case standards, because it's fairly significant. If you're talking a decade out, which is how it lists out, take this from today to a decade out, it's pretty extreme as far as compared to now, especially compared to like 5 years ago, what the case weight standards were, what I had to deal with, my caseload as a public defender, or when I was a prosecutor, the caseloads that public defenders I worked with had were even higher than mine. I don't know where those states came up with the funding. We didn't really go into that part of it. Obviously, we came in from a judiciary standpoint, going, it has to be done, it will be done. Your cities or states or districts or counties are gonna struggle with this, right? But you've got to understand that this is what it's for, and this is what it's about, and if you can support it, obviously, but.
Well, if you learn from your colleagues or in your circles about how another state has done it, let us know, because we will be talking with our legislators in the upcoming months about legislation. This is an opportunity to plant the seeds of possible solutions.
Well, and I will tell you that even if I say, hey, we should think of a solution, they would be like, we're 24 to 36 months ahead of you,
Maybe.
Because that's the thing is when they came out with the new idea and had the study, I think 3 years ago now, with the Washington State Bar Association that went out and did this study and brought in consultants from out of state and laid out this plan of the need and how they would suggest doing these, case weighting case limits. That was all part of the idea too, as they immediately started talking about, well, they knew the cities were going to struggle with this, so what can we do to find funding for it? Okay. And so at the same meetings that I'm in regarding these case standards are talks about funding coming from the state to help.
Okay,
for sure.
thank you.
Yeah.
Judge Gregory, can you, this might not be the way you count things, so I'm sorry to put you on a spot for a data ask here, but how many cases a year does the court adjudicate that originate on Mercer Island?
I would have to bring in those numbers, but, they do fluctuate, I will tell you. They certainly fluctuate with some trends. Obviously, I will tell you the numbers were way down during COVID, only because we only get cases if the officers, make the contact, or able to make the contact, write up the cases and send them in. That's a kind of a huge impact. Obviously, case or crime statistics kind of go up and down based on the economy usually, is how it is, or annexing numbers of, your jurisdiction or something like that. But I will tell you that the numbers have been on the rise recently because of more just, police interactions and the ability to interact now that, the whole COVID thing has kind of got past us and stuff like that. But I can get you actual numbers and we can pull those pretty quick. Again, that's the Cheryl part of all this, so.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Councilman Reynolds.
If I'm not mistaken, you work for Mercer Island, but Newcastle contracts with us. Is that
Correct.
the structure?
Correct.
What advantage does that give us as opposed to, say, the reverse, where Newcastle hires and we contract? Like, why should we be glad we're doing it the way we are?
Well, the contract itself, which obviously goes through the city manager's office, is, kind of laid out to where we get basically any of the revenues or incomes coming from just doing the job get remitted right back to the city. So basically, the advantage is I'm already there. The city's already paying my salary, paying the salary of my staff. Maybe a few paper clips. The cost that will be added, obviously, that aren't Mercer Island's is the prosecutor, contract prosecutor, and contract public defender. Newcastle pays for that. So, I think that's a better question for the city manager's office, and I know they're looking into it to make sure that that still is a good economic choice. But as far as me personally, I kind of like being involved in a jurisdiction that's close to our jurisdiction as well, because, not a lot of, or not, all the defendants that come before me for Mercer Island are Mercer Island residents, right? They from Newcastle and vice versa. And so having a sense, that's also why I kind of like sitting in Issaquah and Bothell and Kirkland as well. So I have a much better sense. I'm not just confined to what comes in front of me from Mercer Island. I get a sense of what's going on in the trends and the types of crimes and all this stuff that's happening all over the east side of this county.
Great. Thank you, Judge Gregory. I would say to my colleagues as well as anyone watching at home, if you have not had the opportunity to go see the court in action, it's really worthwhile. I've been a couple times. If I get this wrong, correct me, but I think there's a great partnership between the court, the prosecutor's office, as well as the public defender in those situations. And while it's very efficient, it's also a very thoughtful process. So I would encourage anyone to go take a look at it and sort of see that sort of justice in action, where there's a good balance between helping folks out that really do need some help and also delivering justice to in those situations as well. So thank you for your efforts and thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, council members.
Next up on the agenda, we have the city manager's report, and we will welcome City Manager Jesse Bond.
Actually, I'm tossing the baton to Ali Speets.
Okay. And we welcome Allie Speets.
Thank you, council. Good evening. We will be doing the city manager's report for Tuesday, January 20th. Next slide. We have upcoming city council meetings. We have a regular hybrid meeting on Tuesday, February 3rd at 5 p.m. And we also have the MISD linkage meeting on Thursday, February 5th at 6 p.m. Upcoming boards and commission meetings are the Arts Council on Wednesday, January 21st, and the Planning Commission on Wednesday, January 28th. You can always go to mercerisland.gov/meetings for more information. Okay, boards and commissions recruitment. We have 3 vacant positions right now. One's on the Arts Council and 2 are on the Open Space Conservancy Trust. The recruitment for these positions is open through February 20th, and the appointments are scheduled for the March 3rd City Council meeting. If you'd like to learn more or to apply, please go to mercerisland.gov/BC. We are looking for talented volunteers to help us out. Sewer Lift Station 11 was reconstructed by King County as part of their North Mercer Sewer Interceptor project, the project that has gone on forever. The new station is currently operational after the completion of the reliability testing. So the crews have removed the temporary bypass piping and have patched the intersection at 97th Avenue and Southeast 34th Street. Let's hope that's a final patching. The permanent paving will occur later in the year. And Fruitland Landing Street End Park will be restored, and it will include grading, irrigation, new native plants, grass seeding, park bench, and signage. Excited for that project to wrap up. Big news, the city's e-moto bill gets a hearing. So the 2026 state legislative session began last week, and in exciting news, the city's e-moto bill, HB 2374, has been scheduled for a public hearing in the House Committee on Transportation tomorrow at 4 p.m. Mayor Rosenbaum is scheduled to testify in committee in support of the bill. We'd like to thank the council, the numerous staff, and the community for all the thoughtful engagement on this topic as we work to keep our neighbors safe and moving. Upcoming events. MICEC Art Reception. In collaboration with MyVol, the City of Mercer Island's public art and photography show is now on display as the current show at the Community Center. Please join us for hors d'oeuvres and refreshments tomorrow, January 21st, from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. This show will be running through February 27th. Come and check it out. Healthy Youth Community Forum. So YFS's Healthy Youth Initiative is hosting its annual Healthy Youth Community Forum on Monday, February 2nd from 7 to 9 p.m. here at the Community Center. The event will feature Dr. Jason Kilmer from the University of Washington and will explore how parents and youth behavioral health choices now set them up for success in college years. The event is for both youth and adults to attend, and youth from the MIHS Safe Club and Youth Matters Advisory Group, which is supported by YFS, will facilitate the event. Next slide. And some good news. MIPD Excellence. Last month, MIPD Sergeant Chad Schumacher was honored with the 2025 Washington State Recreational Boating Safety Marine Law Enforcement Officer of the Year. Whew, what a title. This prestigious state award is in recognition of his outstanding contributions to the Mercer Island Police Department's Marine Unit and his dedication to recreational boating safety. His exemplary service reflects the high caliber of public safety professionals serving our community on both land and water. Join me in congratulating Sergeant Schumacher on this wonderful award. That's all for this evening. Thank you.
Congrats to Sergeant Schumacher. Okay, our next item of business is appearances. This is an opportunity for anyone to speak to the city council on any item, except items requiring a public hearing, any quasi-judicial matters or campaign-related matters. City Clerk, is there anyone who has signed up for appearances that wish to address the council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Tonight's agenda will include in-person public appearances and remote appearances via Zoom. Individuals wishing to address the council may do so in person or by Zoom or telephone, provided they register with the city clerk by 4 p.m. today. When it is your turn to speak, you will be called by name. Remarks must be addressed to the council as a whole and not to any individual council or staff members. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks will become boisterous, threatening, or personally abusive while addressing the city council may be requested to leave the meeting. Please speak audibly and state your name and city of residence for the record. There will be a timer on the screen. You will have 3 minutes to speak. When your time is ended, your microphone and video will be turned off. I will thank you for your comments and move to the next speaker or item of business. Staff, please promote the first speaker.
Our first speaker tonight is Addie Smith.
Hello. I want to, since the judge was there, I want to go over several attorneys that represented me after I defended myself in a hate crime, wherein I most certainly, wherein I would have been murdered had I not defended myself from that criminal who was already convicted of trafficking. Matt Honeywell was the first attorney that I was provided in this case. The case number is 9Z0930066. Matt Honeywell didn't show up for court, so his father came. His father referred to the prosecutor as a Nazi and said that she consistently violated the law. Matt Honeywell Sr. had been a 40-plus year public defender, and that's his statements about the prosecutor. Then I was given Andrew Staub, and Andrew Staub did not provide me with discovery. That's why he stepped down. Then I was provided with, Howard Stein, then Andrew Staub. So Howard Stein, I recorded my one meeting that I had with him as the public defender, and he was listening to conservative talk radio, and they were calling people niggers in the conservative talk radio station he was listening to when I went into his office. And then Howard Stein, I have email correspondence with him wherein he didn't even come to do his job. So he didn't want the job. So he submitted his request. I'm going fast because I only have 3 minutes here. Then I hired Sade Smith and I got my money back from her because when I hired her, she and her husband were getting married and went to Africa and couldn't represent me. So I got the money, $1,500 that I had paid her back from that. And then Meredith Hutchison either came before you guys or the court. I can't remember at the time. It was 2023 or 2022. And she requested more money because I refused to take a plea deal for defending my life in a hate crime attack that had been going on for months. Now, I showed you guys this email. I'm going to show it again, and I'm going to turn it around because I have been posting, and I can document the 6 years that you guys have taken from my life in this matter where I have had, where I was attacked in hate crimes, and you guys did nothing about it. And there are still members of this city council who received those emails when Ed, the previous chief of police, responded and said that he had done some sort of investigation. You guys, the public is going to be held accountable, and Judge Gregory has committed perjury. I'm going to come back and tell you guys in the coming weeks at the next meeting how he has consistently committed perjury. I don't know how.
If there are no further appearances, we now move to our next item of business, approval of the consent agenda. City Clerk, can you please put the consent agenda on the screen? Okay, the consent agenda contains 6 items which are available on the screen and in the agenda packet for review. Deputy Mayor Becker.
Yeah, I'd like to pull AB 6850 from the consent agenda.
Okay, we will remove 6850 from the consent agenda. Anyone else? Okay. Accordingly, AB 6850 will be the first item that is discussed as part of regular business. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
It was moved by Deputy Mayor Becker and seconded by Councilmember Weicker to approve the consent agenda. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Shea.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Councilmember Weinberg.
Aye.
Councilmember Andral.
Aye.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Aye.
Mayor Rosenbaum.
Aye.
And Councilmember Weicker.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All right, our first item of regular business is now AB 6850, and I welcome City Manager Jesse Bond.
Good evening, City Council. And I think I have a colleague that is going to screen share for me. I just have a couple slides. Shelby, are you there? There we go. Thank you. And thank you, Deputy Mayor, for pulling the AB. It was actually your questions in the Q&A matrix that confirmed what I was thinking on Friday night, that we probably needed to touch on this a little bit more before I asked you to take steps to appropriate money for facilities planning. For anyone that might be watching at home, it was just Friday that we had a chance to debrief with the City Council regarding our recent bond measure and to start thinking about next steps. With that, we do have an appropriation request to make sure that work is funded. So let me just walk you through that. This is a really short deck. Next slide, please. In the smallest font I could have mustered, but to get everything onto the slide, I just wanted to call out what January and February look like. You've just completed your planning session, that look forward, look back analysis. We're moving forward with a community survey. Actually, your ad hoc committee met today to review that, and probably some additional community engagement to debrief on the bond with our constituents. We actually have some technical work that needs to continue and be completed on the site. This is really specific to the geotechnical analysis. We bought a building last year, a really important building that complements our portfolio well. We started the space planning. We need to move that forward. Also, part of the post-bond measure action is taking another look at the Luther Burbank admin building, thinking how that fits in to the plan going forward. We need to, and we have brought on a new consultant to take a look at the PSM facility project. This is normal. We really like the consultant we worked with, but when a bond measure doesn't pass, I think it's important to evolve and get a fresh set of eyes on the project to start thinking about alternatives. And finally, Matt will talk about this just a little bit. We also need to zoom out, take a look at your CIP project list and start talking about funding those projects and how that weaves into the bigger picture. In March, all of that rolls up and comes back to you. We bring you the community engagement results. We start talking about space planning, scoping, alternatives, and that sets the course for what will likely be the next steps for your facility replacement plans. Next slide, please. So with that, this was not in your agenda, Bill, and I apologize. We had a 5 o'clock hard cut to amend your packet on Friday because of the holiday. So what I will add is you appropriated funding to design and plan your PSM facility. Most of those funds were expended. What's remaining is about $130,000. I don't have the exact dollars and cents here, but we're recommending that funding be carried forward for facility planning work this year, and specifically to direct it to the site work, the geotechnical analysis that needs to happen on the campus. In addition to that, we have about $150,000. That's a really high level estimate to do the space planning work at 9655. This goes beyond just where people will sit. It starts to take a look at very preliminarily the renovations that would need to be done on that building to house the city services. So I'm not going to call it design, but it's definitely pre-design. And I'm also recommending we go back and look at Luther Burbank. So as we think about what we can do at 9655, what also needs to be accommodated at Luther Burbank, that rolls up into this next 6 to 8 weeks of work. I just mentioned looking at the PSM facility, thinking about how we reduce the scope and scale of that project. We have a consultant on board to help with that. This obviously ties to those 2 other buildings I was just talking about. You mentioned on Friday, and I concur, I think it's a good idea. You maybe didn't say this quite this formally, but we stopped short in 2023 of fully cost estimating the reoccupy scenario at City Hall, and we possibly also stopped short of providing you a full cost estimate to renovate the existing Public Works building and facility. I think we should do that, at least at a planning level, right? Have the new consultant we brought on board take a look at both of these buildings, tell us what they think, and give us that full complete cost estimate. That would be done in this work, although we haven't told the consultant that yet. All right, and that would probably complete the body of work we're doing in Q1. So it's a pretty fast turn. I will let you in on a secret. The consultant was already selected. We did that last year in anticipation of being in front of you right now. And they've already got a running start. So it's your direction tonight on the appropriation of funding that we need. So this is January to March. Next slide, please. April and beyond, I just want to say that this next phase, the second phase, starting around the end of March, early April, is really dependent on the February and March work we do and where you all want to go. So I don't want to bake this cake too fully, big asterisk on this slide, but I also want to be transparent, especially as we start to look at the capital funding needs for the city, that there's going to be additional planning resources needed. If we're going to renovate the 9655 building, we have to fund the design, permit, bidding piece of that. What about Luther Burbank? Not sure yet. There may be some work there. A new building, right? If the council decides we do want to go forward with designing a new building, which you've already heard me say is my recommendation, then we will have some additional resources needed to commence planning, community engagement, probably to get it to about the 50% design phase, which is an early concept phase, but would be enough to go to the ballot. And there's additional resources needed to prepare for a bond measure and legal. So, you know, that's a lot of squishy numbers right now, council, but I just didn't feel good about coming to you with this next step unless I identified that there's additional resources needed in part 2 here. And all of this is dependent on receiving direction from you in February and March. So I will just leave it with that. So with that, I did revise the motions in your agenda bill, and I'm happy to take questions. Motion number 1 would be directing that we carry forward the funds from the Public Safety and Maintenance Facility and appropriate them for the completion of that site work. Motion number 2, it's a little bit different. It's moving funds from the street fund to the capital improvement fund. And we explained in the agenda bill that we double counted a scope of work. So that freed up some resources. And then appropriating $150,000 to complete the space planning. The remaining funds are available for the next phase of facility planning. I hope that all made sense. I did want to just take a moment to kind of walk through the funding there in a little more detail than we were able to get done by Friday at that 5 o'clock cutoff. And with that, there's nothing else for me. We can stop screen. Well, actually, no, we should leave the motions on the screen since you're just seeing them.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Couple of questions. I'll take them one at a time. I just want to clarify the, I think you said 300 to 500,000 for the 9655 building. That's design, permitting, bidding, but not construction, right?
That's right. That's just yeah, I should have been more specific. Thanks for the clarification. That's just the planning side. Construction, I mean, preliminarily, actually, I'm not even going to tell you what I think preliminarily because it's.
We have to go through the first exercise to know the number for the second.
Right, right.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Weicker.
Yeah, thank you for this and for pulling it, Deputy Mayor. And Jesse, could you talk a little bit more about how we're building on the information we already did in the last year and the consultant work that we had and how this is really going to help us fine tune for what's next?
Yeah, actually, I had intended to make that point on the very first slide. Council, I think it's important, and especially also to reassure our community that you don't start over, right? There's a lot of really important work we did, especially around the site and planning. So the next phase is going to look different. We know that. The bond measure was not successful. But a lot of the work we did will help, will be reused, essentially. We'll build on it, especially the site work, even some of the initial planning and testing we did of building. So we're not starting back from zero, but we are going to take a fresh look, a new perspective, alternatives. So thank you for bringing that up.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Since this has been a point of some contention with the public recently, I just want to clarify how the funds work on this. You said you're transferring money from the street fund to the capital improvement fund. I assume you wouldn't ask for that if that wasn't allowed, but I would have thought that the street fund money had to stay with streets.
Good question. In an earlier draft of the agenda bill, we walked through step by step what I will call the reconciliation of the revenues. So you're right. We have to realign the REIT funding with this transfer, which we can do. If you want a more technical answer, I will either call on Lawan or Matt to explain exactly how the moves happen. I will confirm you have the revenue there from both REIT 1 and REIT 2. We just have to realign it based on this funding move. Would you like me to call up Lawan or Matt?
Maybe if there's a short version of the explanation, it'd be helpful to me, yes.
Let's make sure we get it more right than I'm going to deliver it.
I just want to be able to answer if asked about this.
Thank you for the question. Matt Mornick, your Finance Director. In its simplest terms, the money that is moving from the street fund can be used on eligible projects that involve parks, streets, and open space. And so the resources moving from the street fund are going to pay for parks projects. That frees up resources in the capital improvement fund to pay for facility improvements. So we are making sure that the color of the revenues remains tied to the eligible uses.
So is it that effectively money in the street funds that would have been used for capital improvements for parks now doesn't need to be because the capital improvement, or the capital improvement funds don't need to be used for parks because the street fund money is going to be? So now they can be used for this?
Correct.
Okay, sorry, I said it wrong at first, but I think I got it now. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it.
Deputy Mayor Becker.
I don't actually have any questions. I just wanted to say, since I asked the questions in the matrix that I think prompted some of this, that I appreciate you coming back and providing more info, and you've cleared up what my questions were previously.
Thank you.
Councilor Reynolds, old hand?
Old hand.
Almost got a whole meeting, okay. Is there a motion to carry forward the funds remaining from the 2025 Public Safety and Maintenance Facility Project, approximately $130,000, and appropriate the funds for completion of the site work and geotechnical assessment on the City Hall and Public Works campus?
So moved.
Second.
The motion was made by Deputy Mayor Becker and seconded by Councilmember Reynolds. Any discussion? Please call a roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Weicker.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Councilmember Weinberg.
Aye.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Aye.
Councilmember Shea.
Aye.
Councilmember Andral.
Aye.
And Mayor Rosenbaum.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Motion number 2. Is there a motion to transfer $587,594 from the street fund to the capital improvement fund and appropriate $150,000 to complete the space planning analysis at the 9655 building and the Luther Burbank admin building, revisit the City Hall and Public Works building renovation cost estimate, complete the PSM project review, and return to the City Council in March of 2026 with findings and preliminary project alternatives?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Deputy Mayor Becker, seconded by Councilman Reynolds. Any discussion? Please call a roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Andral.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Councilmember Shea.
Aye.
Councilmember Weicker.
Aye.
Councilmember Weinberg.
Aye.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Aye.
And Mayor Rosenbaum.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Motion passes. Our next item of regular business is AB 6849, the 2026 to 27 City Council Liaison Assignments. Council, Deputy Mayor Becker and I have reviewed the liaison assignments to advisory boards and commissions, City Council, local and regional committees. The 2026 to 27 City Council Liaison appointments are Exhibit 1 to AB 6849 in your packet, and you should have a printed copy in front of you. For folks watching at home, in addition to serving on the council here, all of us receive various assignments to regional as well as community, city boards and commissions, local assignments, regional assignments, and some appointed regional assignments as well. They range in terms of time commitment as well as physical location, but it allows us to both collect information from the community and also represent the city on different boards. So, Council, Deputy Mayor Becker and I did our best to get you at least your first or second request, understanding that everyone has a busy schedule. So, are there any questions? Okay. If not, we do not need a motion for this, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
You just make the appointments.
Speak now, forever hold your peace. Okay, Council, thank you for your willingness to serve on these assignments for the 2026 to 27. Our next item of business is AB 6839, budget basics and financial priorities in 2026. We welcome Finance Director Matt Mornick and Deputy Finance Director Luan Covell.
Good evening, Mayor Rosenbaum, members of the council, and the staff team that's attending this evening's meeting. I'm Matt Mornick, your finance director, and I'm joined tonight with Deputy Finance Director Lawan Tuttle, who is going to help steer the deck and answer questions. So this item was scheduled for the planning session. We had a very vibrant discussion on Friday, and so given the nature of the planning session and the nature of the material we're going to cover tonight, I'm going to definitely leave time throughout the presentation for questions, but if questions come up, please raise them. We welcome the discussion, and we'll be tracking any questions should we not be able to answer them tonight. Okay, next slide, please. I'm going to go through 21 slides, beginning with an overview of the framework that the City of Mercer Island and all code cities in Washington's are required to use when building and maintaining a biennial budget. We're also going to cover some of the emerging themes, emerging needs that are arising in 2026. These are unbudgeted, unplanned things that are coming to light that the staff team is reacting to and responding to. And so we're going to go through some of them. And this is kind of continuing along the themes of what was discussed at the planning session. We'll end with just an overview of the budget schedule and the work that we have ahead this year to build the 2027 and 2028 biennial budget. Next slide. As the council is well aware, the 2025 and 2026 biennial budget was adopted in December of 2024. And at the time of adoption, this document represented a $222 million financial plan. It also serves as the city's primary policy document. At a high level, the biennial budget lays out in detail everything that the staff teams are setting out to accomplish via work plan goals and objectives within the 2-year period. And then it lays out the staffing and the financial resources required to realize those goals and objectives. As the council well aware, but for those who may not be attending from the public, the council regularly updates the biennial budget. And so the finance teams packages all of those revisions that happen when during city council meetings via motions and recommended actions. We package all of those adjustments to the biennial budget in budget amendments that accompany the financial status updates that the finance team presents to the council every quarter. Next slide. And so we are in the second year of the 2025 and 2026 biennium, and this is precisely the time that the staff team begins the work to develop the next biennial budget. And so as we kick off that body of work, I thought it would be helpful to just walk through some helpful distinctions between the staff's, how staff invests its time on the operations side versus the capital budget side. A little bit of background into the revenues and the differences between restricted and unrestricted revenues, and the underlying basis for using a method of accounting that all cities use called fund accounting to manage the city's resources. Okay, so as the council is well aware, the biennial budget is an over 300-page document, and it is full of very exciting information about all the things that we're setting out to accomplish every 2 years. One helpful way to kind of simplify this document is to break it up into parts. And so the operating budget is really the day-to-day expenses to realize all of the city's operations and non-infrastructure related costs. So it lays out in detail all of the goals, the objectives, the programs, the projects, and the service deliverables for each of the city's 12 departments over a 2-year period. In comparison to that, the capital budget, also known as the Capital Improvement Program, is the city's long-term financial plan to invest in public infrastructure, and that includes parks, utilities, streets, as well as technology, and of course, buildings. Even though the capital program takes a 6-year perspective, the city council, every time the biennial budget gets adopted, only appropriates resources for a 2-year period. And so the 6-year horizon really allows us to lay out in detail the work that we know is coming that needs to happen to the community's infrastructure. It also allows us to pursue outside funding to support these significant investments and start to set aside money to help pay for these things. The operating budget is paid for with both restricted and unrestricted revenues. So unrestricted revenues, think of sales tax, think of property tax. These are revenues that can be spent on any government service, whereas a restricted revenue that supports operations, think permit revenues. These are revenues that are strictly tied to the provision of development services. The capital budget, however, is predominantly funded through restricted revenues that are earmarked for specific purposes. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that shortly. This chart just gives a little bit more context into the 2025 and 2026 amended budget through this lens of thinking about operations versus capital investments. And so you have the capital budget here in blue for 2025 and 2026, and then the operating budget in green. And I've also included, just for additional context, what the amended budget is in 25 and 26 relative to actual expenses that were incurred across all funds for 2023 and 2024. And so just to tie up this discussion on the operating versus capital, these are really two different budgets because they pay for separate things. But at the end of the day, they're very much codependent. And I think playgrounds is a really good example to walk through. So the Mercer Island community approved a specific funding source in 2022, via a Parks Levy lid lift that pays for very specific investments around parks and open space. And one of those kinds of investments included the replacement of playgrounds. And so via the capital program, we have laid out reoccurring investments to replace playgrounds throughout the city's parks. And once that investment is made with that restricted money and the one-time investment is paid for and we have a new playground, the maintenance and ongoing day-to-day care of that facility gets turned over to the park's maintenance staff. And that's paid for with general government resources. Next slide. Okay, just to transition a little bit, all cities in Washington State, all code cities, use a method of accounting called fund accounting to manage the public's resources. And the reason for that is that most of government revenues vary greatly between those that I said before are unrestricted versus revenues that are earmarked for very specific purposes. They could only be spent on specific things. And so the reason for this method of accounting is to ensure that the public's dollars are spent precisely as intended in state law. So whereas a business may have one large checking account or even your household to pay the variety of expenses that come through your home, the city maintains 19 separate funds. Each one is a separate accounting entity. And the next slide just lays out at a high level what are all of these 19 separate funds within the 7 different fund categories. Exhibit 1 in the agenda item lays out the purpose and some of the restrictions at a high level for each one of these funds. I'm not going to go through them in detail now, but I just wanted to put this slide in the deck for context and also give a shout out to the Finance Department for all of the work it takes to reconcile and balance each one of these funds every year. Next slide. I just want to use the street fund as a final example of this idea of restricted versus unrestricted revenues and within the guise of fund accounting. So the street fund is a special revenue fund. We just talked about an appropriation for that earlier in the meeting tonight. And all of the revenues that go into that fund, the revenues and expenditures tied to the fund have to do with the transportation system. Most of the revenues going into the street fund are restricted. And so I've included on this table 3 examples of revenues that are restricted for transportation investments, so the maintenance and the preservation of the improvements to the transportation system on the island. So the motor vehicle fuel tax, it's regulated by state law. It's cited here on the slide, and it's apportioned out to cities based on a per capita basis. The city in 2024 brought in about $420,000. That goes directly to maintain the transportation system on the island. The Transportation Benefit District, this is another funding mechanisms that cities are allowed to stand up to generate revenues for their transportation system. And so on Mercer Island, we established a Transportation Benefit District in 2015. The way we generate revenue through that is a $20 licensing fee per year per vehicle, and that generated in 2024 about $336,000. Again, it has to be spent on the transportation system. And finally, transportation impact fees. The nexus here is that these fees that are generated through new development must go towards new capacity in the transportation system. And so spending street fund revenues on non-transportation related expenses is essentially illegal. I know we just had an interesting example with moving street fund revenues from the street fund to the capital improvement fund to pay for park investments. And we're going to get into more detail on that in the February 3rd City Council meeting when we provide another overview of the capital program. But in general, the city has to manage all of our restricted revenues via fund accounting for the sake of transparency and making sure that we're using these revenues the way that state law intends. Okay, I'm going to pause here, see if there's any questions so far.
Councilor Reynolds.
Can you go back to slide 6, please? If someone looking at this the first time would see spending growing, or expenditures growing from 82 million to 149, and then back down to 116, tremendously unstable and also tremendously up towards the end. Is the budget, is the city actually growing that much, or the city government actually growing that much, or is this a timing effect on when things are spent?
I appreciate the question. What you're seeing here is the result of revisions that the City Council made during the 2025 fiscal year, where we carried forward significant resources from the 23-24 biennium, mainly in the capital program, into the 2025 and 2026 biennium. So carry forwards are where we have kicked off significant work, significant capital projects, but they haven't completed by the end of the previous biennium. And so we moved over $30 million in resources to support ongoing work on the capital program. And as the council is well aware, the capital program at this point in time is very significant. We've used the term before, and I'm going to use it again tonight. Generational level investments are being made in the city's public infrastructure.
So the expenditures here, like most of your accounting, I think, are on a cash basis. And this is showing when we actually spent the money. It just happened to be lumpy that a lot of it happened in 25 rather than 2024 or 2023, correct?
Correct. And I will say that the numbers represented for 25 and 26 are not actuals. These are the amended budget numbers. And so we are going to present in April and May of this year how we actually ended 2025 on the expenditure side and the revenue side.
So some of that might also get carried forward to 2026. Is that possible? We didn't actually spend that necessarily?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? We're at the halfway point of the current biennium, and so we're focused on many things right now. Obviously, the teams are working hard, completing all of the goals and objectives outlined in detail in the work plan, while we're also simultaneously seeing through the work that has already kicked off for the many capital projects, capital investments being made on the island. We're also completing the groundwork and going to start doing the internal work within the organization at the department level to build the 27-28 biennial budget. This is a big lift. This is all happening while we're also dealing with the many emerging needs. And so the next few slides are going to give some color to the things that are happening right now. We've covered both the Growth Management Hearing Board order and this is the ongoing topic we're going to be talking about all year, cities' facilities. But I just wanted to touch on some of the things that we are keeping an eye on as we do everything else. The 2027 and 2028 biennial budget is going to be developed during a period in 2026, but it's most likely going to involve a period of time where revenues are unlikely to keep pace with expenditures. We call this an operating deficit. I presented this to the council in May 2025, and in 2027 at the time, going back to in May when we provided the financial forecast, we have an eye on the general fund experiencing a funding gap of about $1.6 million and the Youth and Family Services Fund of $800,000. And so this is top of mind, and we are going to be coming back to the council early and often with new information as well as some new strategies to address this funding gap in the upcoming biennium. Next slide. We are undergoing significant capital investments. I would say that we're about in year 4, maybe 5 of a 10-year undertaking. But we're really seeing many of the infrastructure systems on the island come to the point where they're useful life. And so we're well into the effort to update them for the next 50 years. And so the list of projects you see here are just some examples. I'm not going to go into too much detail, welcome any questions that you have on them, but these are major bodies of work, and they're going to continue into the next biennium. Jesse spoke to this earlier this evening, and I will just add that we appreciate the appropriation. Staff is fiercely working to complete space planning and tenant improvement reviews for the 9655 building. We appreciate that the City Council Ad Hoc Committee's work on the resident survey. That's going to yield some very helpful information moving forward with the many decisions we have to make around the future facilities for the city. And we're going to, again, return to the council regularly with updates on that and make some incremental decisions so that we can keep moving forward in a pragmatic and strategic way. The mandatory update to the city's comprehensive plan. The council has already allocated $200,000 of resources to kick off that work. We have a lot of work ahead of us to meet the July 2026 deadline. And so additional resources are going to be required to make that happen. But the staff team is working diligently on that. In December of last year, around the same time, the City Council appropriated $100,000 to make strategic investments on in-car video camera and digital evidence management systems for improving public safety on the island. We're going to return to council in the first quarter of this year with additional information and analysis that's going to inform potential procurement for a parking enforcement system. As part of the 27 and 28 biennial budget, we're going to prepare analysis and provide information on the one-time and ongoing costs associated with standing up new technology that involves body-worn cameras. This is a significant investment, and it's going to inform some of the decisions that we have to make in the upcoming biennium. I will note that all of these investments in technology for public safety are very significant. We have some of the resources. We're pursuing outside funding, and we're trying to get really creative to make sure that our public safety officers have the resources they need to do their job. The city relies on a significant number of vehicles and heavy equipment to provide the public goods and services that the communities come to expect. One major piece of equipment or vehicle, probably a bit of both, is the Type 2 fire engine. This is a mid-size fire engine that's up for replacement this year in 2026, and it's going to cost between $750,000 and $800,000. We have a funding mechanism in place to pay for this, but this is very expensive. It's more than we anticipated. And so we have a strategy right now to pursue state funding to help support a portion of this acquisition, but we'll see how that goes. The way that the city pays for the operation, maintenance, and replacement of the city's fleet is via the Equipment Rental Fund, and it's funded by internal user charges. The underlying assumptions that inform the level of those internal user charges have not really kept pace with the year-over-year increases that we've seen in the costs for new vehicles and equipment. And so as part of the 27-28 biennium, we're going to revisit those assumptions, and we're going to tighten up the funding mechanism to make sure that we remain solvent and we have the resources we need to support the city's fleet. Okay, and so forgive me, council, this is a very detailed timeline from December of 2025 all the way through to 2026. You're getting a glimpse inside my brain, how my brain works, but this timeline, everything above the blue line represents the touch points that the staff team has with council via these little pink dots. And the gray boxes beneath this timeline give some context into all of the internal operations underway within the organization to make sure that we have productive discussions during those touch points. And so we're right now in January, and we are going to come back to council on February 3rd with an overview of the capital program and laying out precisely the policies in place on how we fund all of these infrastructure improvements, while also talking about all of the needs, the emerging needs that we have on the facility side of city's operations. That's going to inform future decisions that we have related to the capital program and the work that we put into developing the 27 and 28 budget. In the second quarter, we're going to talk about the Transportation Improvement Program. This is a plan that is required by state law, and it's a subset of the Capital Improvement Program that goes through and lays out all of the work that we're doing related to transportation. And so we'll have two touch points where we seek your input on this plan as well as the community's input. And we look to get that adopted before the June 30th, 2026 deadline. We spend the summer balancing all of those 19 funds. What we're essentially doing is trying to address all of the resource needs within the organization, within the limitations of the anticipated revenues. And once we do that, we build the preliminary budget. And so right now, the 6-year revenue forecast is scheduled on this timeline to come to council in September. And then shortly thereafter, we share with the preliminary budget with the council. We give you a couple weeks to review it, meet with staff, ask detailed questions, and then we kick off budget workshops that take place all through October and November, working towards the point where we get your input, we incorporate it into the budget, we finalize and adopt the budget at the first meeting in December 2026. This timeline really reflects what you would anticipate in a traditional budget development process. I will just say on the record that we are not in a traditional period of time. So please note that this timeline is subject to change. We are going to really try to work ahead. I anticipate bringing the revenue forecast to the council earlier because I think it's going to inform some of the difficult decisions that we have on the horizon. But I just wanted to share this so that the council and the community knows what lies ahead. Okay, final slide here. We're going to return in February to talk about the capital improvement program funding strategies. And then in April or May, we're going to provide an update on the city's financial position through the end of 2025. We're going to return many times to seek your input and direction as we work to address the many challenges facing the city. And that your input is going to really help us build out the goals and objectives for the next biennium. So with that, we can move to the final slide. I very much appreciate your time and attention and welcome any questions.
Councilmember Weicker.
can I just say, wow, thank you for that. And your work plan and timeline makes me tired just looking at it. I don't have to do the work. So I just want to say thank you to the team also for keeping all of this going. And we all know about the financial headwinds. We've been hearing about it for years, and we're in much better shape than other cities. So I wonder if you could just speak to a little bit of our financial planning that we did a couple years ago and the framework that we developed under your leadership. I can't remember, Craig, was that 2 years ago, 3 years ago? But I think that's really helping us not be in a worse bind. So I just want you to brag a little bit about how awesome you are in the work we do and the plan that helps you build the next budget, but also manage all these crazy expenses along the way.
Thank you for the question. And so what Councilmember Weicker, you're referring to is the city's financial management policies. I believe it was in 2021 when we pulled an ad hoc committee together to just breathe some new light into what kind of policies and procedures should we have in place to guide the stewardship of the city's financial position over the long term. And we've really adhered to that. We update these policies regularly, and if that's something that the council would like to do, I always welcome that opportunity. But what those policies allowed us to do is to really commit unanimously to a strategy to be conservative, really be careful with how we invest the public's dollars, and when we have one-time savings, to be careful with it and cautious with it and strategic with it. And so an example of what we were able to do was we pulled together year-over-year savings over multiple years to acquire the 9655 building in large part. That would have not been able to have happened if not for the council's careful stewardship of the public's resources. And so we're in a better financial position than some of our peer cities. We have the right resources in place to see through the significant body of work. It's an exciting time, but that also means that we have some challenging decisions ahead of us. So I look forward to working with you and our colleagues to work through all of these decisions.
Councilor Weinberg.
I just wanted to praise or echo the praise about the thoroughness of the presentation and how clearly it conveys how we do budgeting and the approach that we've used in the past. And I remember you mentioning earlier the idea of there being some one-time expenses. I presume what you meant by that is an expense that doesn't recur in each biennium. But in reality, every expense that we do here at the city eventually recurs, right? When we build a building, it will last hopefully 50 years, but eventually that expense recurs. Again, it might be a couple of generations down the line. I'm trying to think of an example of something that really is one time, that like if it's a service that the community no longer needs and that we discontinue. But I presume that when we're looking at the budget that we're thinking about when are we going to eventually need to replace something that we're purchasing or that we're doing, so that we're planning for the next 2 years, but also thinking further down the line to make sure that we'll be ready when we get there to do the eventual replacement.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, is there a question there? I agree with.
I guess my question was about are we planning for eventual replacement on all of the things that we purchased, both be it vehicles or buildings or IT systems, et cetera? And when you say a one-time expense, are you really meaning just one-time, meaning that biennium?
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, sorry.
So I see City Manager Bond jumped on. I'm going to go ahead and try to respond and welcome her input as well. The city has a number of revolving funds or sinking funds to pay for the tools that we use that require replacement, whether it's a vehicle, whether it's a computer, a variety of the resources that we use to do our jobs. And I will point out that Deputy Finance Director Luan Tuttle, who's been here quite a bit of time, has had a hand in helping build these systems, and the previous Finance Director did a lot of work to make sure that we created sustainable funding mechanisms to replace these tools. So we have a lot of good things in place. But I will say, we have not funded facilities well. And that's something we can do differently moving forward. And so to answer your specific questions around one-time expenses, the way I think of that is a one-time expense, meaning it's not a recurring expense that is part of the budget, and it's not part of something we budget for. So the acquisition of the 9655 building is kind of a decent example of a one-time expense, even though you're right. If you take a longer horizon, maybe a 50-year horizon, we're going to buy more buildings. And so our future selves would benefit from having some type of funding mechanism in place to pay for those 50-year acquisitions. Yeah, a one-time expense is, I think it's fair to couch that acquisition as a one-time expense.
Okay, thank you.
I would just add to that, a good way to kind of think about this, Councilmember Weinberg, is your comprehensive plan is intended to take a look out 20 years, and you have components of that. I don't know why I'm echoing. Let me go over here. Your 20-year comprehensive plan includes anticipated capital investments over that 2-decade planning horizon. We take the goals and policies from your comprehensive plan, and that shapes our more focused planning efforts, like the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Plan, our pedestrian and bikes plan. Those plans typically look out 6 to 10 years. I think even with those plans, that doesn't mean we have the funding. And Matt's right, when you look at the whole suite of infrastructure that we steward, I think historically where the city fell short is on facilities. We've done a pretty good job keeping up with the planning for water and sewer. The funding is catching up, right? We've made a lot of investments recently. I feel good about your parks plan, where that's at. I feel good about our streets planning. It's probably the facilities, that's the main gap right now. And so going forward, as we think about handing this off to a future council and administration, and I tried to make this point on Friday, I do think we have to come back and revisit the long-range facility planning. While right now we're kind of in the crisis of losing a building and have another one close to failing. Right. But keep your eye on that long-term facility planning need. It's still definitely there. I hope that helped.
Yeah, thank you.
Matt, a question for me, obviously with the fire apparatus, that was a significant increase in terms of the expected cost. Or those costs have gone up exponentially in the last 20 years. As you think about the fleet fund, should we be expecting similar growth in terms of cost and for some of the other sort of larger ticket items? Also, I'm putting you on the spot to talk about heavy equipment, so if we need to come back to this at another point, we can always do that.
I appreciate that. No, I think in general, the fleet fund has done a resounding job at making sure we have the resources we need to replace critical equipment and vehicles. We just recently acquired 7 new patrol vehicles for the police department. I believe it was 7. Yep. And the council took action in December to outfit them with new technology. And so all that work is underway. But the inflation that we experienced in the wake of the pandemic was historical. We hadn't seen a level of inflation like that since the early 80s. And so that has had a ripple effect in the acquisition of these kinds of vehicles, and prices are not coming down. So I anticipate we're going to fine-tune the funding model for the equipment rental fund. That means it's going to have an impact on all of our funds. It's going to cost more to operate the fleet and the heavy equipment than it did previously. And so that just comes with prioritization and dealing with the trade-offs inherent in that decision. But I don't think there's going to be wholesale changes. I think we're just going to need to just take a hard look at what's been happening in the equipment rental fund take into account the past 3 years of information, and project out over the next 3 to 5 years of what the fund's going to need to stay solvent.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Council.
Okay, council, are there any new upcoming council member, excuse me. We now move to other business in the planning schedule. Welcome City Manager Jesse Bond.
All right, we're going to try again and see if the echo is addressed. It looks like it is. Council, just a reminder, I use this time to flag any upcoming changes to the planning schedule. I wanted to call out again that we have a joint meeting with the school district on February 5th. This is part of a regular cadence of joint meetings that we hold. We will be at their office. I spoke with the superintendent last week. He's got a couple of items that we'll talk about. I should have a preliminary agenda to share with the mayor and deputy mayor, and then really just invite you. It's a good opportunity to re-engage with the board, especially since they have new members, as do we. Also wanted to mention that last year, because a number of us traveled during midwinter break, we decided to cancel that meeting. I hope this doesn't come back during my performance review, but it does not look like we will be able to cancel that meeting. We are going to need it. I know this planning schedule isn't fully populated yet, but you will have work items coming back on the Growth Management Hearing Board order, and they're going to need to go on that meeting to keep us tracking. So if any of you or any staff for that matter will be traveling that week, we certainly welcome your participation remotely. And maybe next year we'll try again on that. Other than that, I don't have anything else on the planning schedule.
Okay, council, are there any new upcoming council member absences to report? Councilmember Weicker.
So I had already told you about February 3rd. I won't be there on the 5th either. So thank you for carrying on.
Okay. Councilmember reports. We will start with Deputy Mayor Becker.
All right. I have been attending the county's Municipal Solid Waste Committee meetings for a while now, but haven't given any reports. Our trash in most of King counties goes to the Cedar Hills landfill, which was built in the 60s and has been almost full for at least a decade. They've managed to keep making changes to push out the final closure, which I believe right now is around 2040. But one result of these efforts has unfortunately been increased costs to ratepayers over the years, which is going to continue. But the state has also passed various laws to reduce waste, like extended producer responsibility, which increases the responsibility on suppliers over their own products, as well as the Recycling Reform Act and Organics Management Law, which will each steadily increase efforts around recycling and composting, particularly in businesses and multifamily. I'm not seeing anything major impacting Mercer Island, but I believe our contract with Recology is coming up in a few years, so I will keep watching for anything relevant. We've also had some spirited discussion sessions on e-bikes. I was involved in those via the Open Space Conservancy Trust. Councilmember Reynolds has been there too as the liaison to the Parks and Rec Commission. You've all seen some of the emails and speakers come to council as well. The groups got sort of opposing community feedback in the first meeting versus the second, so I think the chairs are regrouping to assess how to proceed. With the liaison appointments, Councilmember Anderl's taking over as the liaison to the trust though, so I won't be part of those boards' future sessions, but I still wanted to report on what had happened so far, and that's all I have.
Councilmember Weinberg.
And so I have now completed 2 of my 14 planned day trips to Olympia for this session, and I've identified 30 bills that may have low, medium, or high impact to the city of Mercer Island as they develop. Of those bills, there are 6 that I consider the highest potential that I wanted to bring to your attention. One is, as mentioned, the e-motorcycle definition bill, it's HB 2374. There's also a regulation around ALPR cameras, SB 6002, that will have impacts on all cities that already use ALPR cameras and ones that are considering new ones. Then there's Senate Bill 6015 about permit-ready residential buildings, essentially designs for buildings that are kept on file at the state that are considered to be ready for permitting right away, that hopefully will help accelerate the permitting process for those who like a pre-cut building design. Performance-based building codes for middle housing and performance-based building codes for low-rise residential housing. Those are House Bills 2346 and 2381. And finally, the House Bill 2265, protecting tenants from extreme heat, which is going to require that all landlords provide cooling to residents, and trying to find a way to make that actually economically feasible. It'll be interesting to see how that bill develops as it moves forward. I look forward to coordinating closely with city staff and our lobbyists so that we can all thoroughly understand the intents and implications of these bills and to ensure that we're presenting cohesive and consistent messages to our legislators. So the East Side Transportation Partnership met on January 9th, and after electing new chairs and vice chairs, we got an update from WashDOT on the Revive I-5 project in Seattle. The 2 northbound lanes of I-5 will be closed from through June from I-90 to Northeast 45th, and the express lanes are open northbound 24/7 during that time to compensate. They will be opened again during the World Cup timeframe. Then Kelly McGourty gave us an overview of the PSRC's draft of their 30-page regional transportation plan, and the primary themes of the plan were maintenance and safety and climate and equity. The plan projects 30% population growth in the Puget Sound region over the next 25 years, and includes 61 additional miles of light rail, the doubling of the bus rapid transit lines, and a 90% increase in transit service hours, which will result in a 20% increase in vehicle miles traveled, but that equates to a 12% decrease in vehicle miles traveled per capita. So 60% of the $335 billion plan is focused on maintenance and preservation of the existing transportation infrastructure and vehicles. About 83% of the plan is already funded with existing laws. And to close the gap on the remaining 17%, the PSRC had several suggestions about options for a road usage charge, a county road levy, and additional vehicle license fee increases, different things to possibly pursue. And finally, the regional transportation plan is open for public comment on PSRC's website through February 2nd. And my last note is my next open lunch is going to be at 12 p.m. on Saturday, February 21st at Sushi Joa restaurant here on Mercer Island. Address is 2717 78th Avenue Southeast. As always, all are welcome. It's open agenda, news, sports, weather, humor, even questions about city business or government. All I ask is that everyone please show their respects to the chef by ordering some food and or beverage, and let me know if you're coming so I can reserve a large enough table. Thank you.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Yeah, a few things. One, just mentioned briefly in passing the same thing Councilmember Becker recommended. I share his sense that the focus or trend in the regulations definitely shifted between the two meetings. One from being somewhat skeptical of bicycles or e-bikes in the park, and one to being somewhat more open in the later ones. I'm not sure where the Parks Commission is going to end up. But there were 2 Parks Commission meetings that I attended. One was that one, and a second one just a few days later to talk about court use policies and reservation policies and whatnot. That one was much more routine. I'll also mention that for most of my 6 years on the council, I have been attempting to, with some regularity and some success, make notices on Facebook of things that are going on with the council, upcoming agenda items, results of the meeting afterwards. There's a new effort afoot in the town that my wife is organizing to create a standalone website called Talk on the Rock, talkontherock.com, where I'll be sharing my announcements and perspective on what's going on in the council going forward on there. I've also put out a call to all the other council members that are interested in doing so to use that as a potential vehicle for sharing news about the city as well. You're all very welcome to contribute. For avoidance of doubt, this is completely a nonprofit, it's not a business at all. It's just something she's doing as a hobby, but I think it'd be kind of a cool community resource, and we would value input from all of you. And then last, I'll mention, we had an unfortunate need to call 911 at our house last week. I just want to commend the Mercer Island firefighters from Fire Station 91 that came to the house. They were there within moments, were professional, helpful. The situation was addressed, and we are all very appreciative of their support, as everybody on the island should be. Thank you.
Councilmember Anderall.
Yeah, thanks. I just noted that Julie Shea is now the WRIA 8 representative to the Salmon Recovery Council. Congratulations, Julie. It's a really, really fun position to be in, and I've copied you on a couple of emails about that tonight. But I've really enjoyed my service. I think they do great work, and good luck with that.
Okay, Councilmember Shea.
Thank you, Councilmember Anderall, for that. And I hope you all enjoyed a beautiful long weekend. And I hope also reflected upon the work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who championed and challenged us to build community where everyone can belong. Our strength as a community comes from working together, listening to one another, and collaborating to shape a stronger future for all. And I'd also like to thank the Public Works Department, led by Jason Kintner, for arranging a tour last Wednesday for me as a new council member to see what they do. And the tour highlighted the breadth of work they do every day to serve our community. Our Public Works Department keep our city running by building, maintaining, and operating the infrastructure that we rely on daily. Their work spans our roadway system, sewer and stormwater infrastructure, transportation and traffic operations, and our water supply. I visited one of our 17 sewer pump stations on Mercer Island, our city's water reservoir, and stormwater drainage sites. I also did a ride-along in a street sweeper and met many public works staff, including those who plow our streets during snowstorms and maintain our water and sewer systems. Work that often goes unnoticed because it runs so seamlessly through their tireless efforts. The Public Works Department is currently housed in a building constructed in 1981 behind the condemned City Hall building and our police trailers. The space is tight for approximately 60 staff members and does not include sleeping quarters for use during severe weather events. Many staff members live off-island and commute nearly 2 hours each day to get to work. Our city's heavy equipment are stored outdoors, exposed to the elements. During snowstorms, it takes up to an hour just to dig out a snowplow, and prolonged outdoor storage shortens the lifespan of our city's critical equipment, which deliver essential services in our community. I've shared photos from my Public Works tour on my council member social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, so feel free to follow along. I'm looking forward to joining council members Craig Reynolds and Ted Weinberg as council representatives at the AWC Association of Washington City Action Days in Olympia tomorrow and Thursday, and when we will meet with legislators alongside our city staff. And many thanks to everyone who joined my community coffee last week at the South End Starbucks, and my next community coffee chat will be Wednesday, February 25th from 11 to 12:30 at ASA on the North End. And as an elected official, I want to hear what matters to you. This is your city. And thank you for your continued engagement in our community.
Great, thank you. The city council will now go into executive session.
I didn't get to report out.
I'm sorry. Councilmember Whitaker.
I just want to say thank you to our utility board for meeting, and Jason Kintner, and everyone should have gotten a postcard about the new portal we have, so folks can track their usage and get updates if they have too much water thrown through, and I think that'll catch some leaks. And I also want to thank Elaine Somagren, who is not going to be with us very much longer. She's moving on to county government. I don't know if I can say that, but Elaine, it has been a pleasure to work with you for 10 years. For everything you've done for the city. It's just been great to see you move from playing in the dirt and weeds and projects into being Jason's right-hand person on the utility board and for all the emergencies and everything we do in public works. So, Elaine, I see you on camera, and I just want to say thank you for your service and best wishes. That's it. Now you can go.
Okay. Well, now, the city council will go into executive session for approximately 30 minutes to discuss with legal counsel pending or potential litigation pursuant to RCW 42.30.110(1)(I). The city council will be in recess from 6:55 until 7 p.m. The city council will convene the executive session at 7 p.m. until 7:30 p.m. Thank you. The city council was in executive session from 7 to 7:30 PM. The next regularly scheduled hybrid city council meeting will be on Tuesday, February 3rd, beginning at 5 PM. The time is now 7:30 PM. As a reminder to the council, please stay seated until the city staff has terminated the broadcast. Good evening and thank you for joining us.